And then, yeah, we can get started at about 2:04.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to let folks in.
Currently isn't letting me restart the video, so I'll turn it off for a second. There it is. Hello, everyone. Going to give everyone a few minutes to dial in, and this meeting is being recorded. That way it can be posted on the website after this meeting.
Most has that capability.
I figure while we're waiting for everyone to get signed in, if you guys do have any questions that you may want answered, if you want to put them in the chat while we're waiting another 2 minutes to give everyone the opportunity to dial in.
Could you put that Treasure Island thing on this one?
I'm uninstalling Internet Download Manager.
All right.
Or is doing it.
All right, I'll just. Oh shit! You're right.
Should be. Well, I think this is.
Maybe this one.
Yeah, that's when you want. Yeah.
All right.
Can you hear me? Barkley?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know if I can stay for the whole meeting. My son is having a revealing party today. He's having a child. And you know, that's my first son's grandchild, or my first grandchild from my son. I'm a little nervous here. So I'm really excited about that. So bad timing for the party, also bad timing for the meeting, but I'm trying to do both, so bear with me.
No problem. Congratulations. All right, so we're gonna get started with the meeting today. We're gonna be talking about the Treasure Island toll and try to answer any questions that you do have. So originally, if Jim from Treasure Island Wine is on the call, if you could get started on your presentation with what you wanted to discuss about how the toll will affect businesses and any questions that you had.
All right, folks, is the audio, is it pretty good here? I'm at TI, so I don't know what my audio is like here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, again, I think what we want to cover is some of the items that we sent to you, Rachel, about I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Steve Stallone can fill in a few things as well. But we just been asking for an update on build out schedules, you know, some financials and some other things that, frankly, the focus has really been more on implementation of tolls as opposed to answering some of the questions that the community had. And I know you're trying to set up something specifically with the businesses, but again, it's always tough to get everybody together. And again, it looks like we got a few businesses online already. So anyways, I think those are the things we want to cover. There's quite a few questions we had about some of the information that you provided to the community. Again, those questions were presented to you and SFCTA, I think about 2 weeks ago. And again, we're still looking for some of that information. You provided a lot of information about the different options of subsidies and.
Did you want to print that page or what?
No, not the,
Hello? So again, we're just looking for more information about some of the implementations of some of the transportation services that's been promised. As the new website that Rachel, that you published, the build out has now been pushed out. The 25%, I think, build out is now the 2027. The halfway is 2031, if I'm not mistaken. So again, a lot of things have changed, but very few details about about the specific transportation services that are going to be provided during this period. It's clear that you want to start some transportation services and toll in 2022, 2023, but it appears that the real services, bus, ferry, whatever, are really very few details and seem to be only backloaded to 2027 and 2031. So those are the things that I think we'd like to cover. Steve, is there anything else you want to add?
And Steve, you're muted.
All right, they're better. Can you hear me? Okay. No, I think you got it, Jim. That's a good start. I mean, I thought we were going to start with a presentation from staff. So, you know, I'd go more after that.
Yeah, so we wanted to open up the floor to residents first if you had any questions that needed to be answered. So feel free to raise your hand through Zoom if you had any questions you want to ask preemptively, or how you think the toll is going to affect you personally or your business. That way you have the opportunity now to speak up. And are you raising your hand, John?
I am.
Perfect.
I am a longtime member of the Treasure Island Yacht Club, go back to 73. I have had various boats berthed at the marina since that time. I currently have a boat there now. I unequivocally want to state on behalf of the Yacht Club and the marina, if you folks go forward with this toll, you are turning the marina and the Yacht Club into an economic disaster. There are alternatives to berth your boat at almost the same price elsewhere in a better maintained marina. And nobody will bother coming to a small yacht club when they have to pay $7 fee to get there. There are plenty of opportunities. If you folks are determined to kill the yacht club and turn the marina into a wasteland, proceed with this toll. It's not a good idea. If you provide passes for the yacht club and berth owners, it may work, but without those, you are committing economic murder of two entities on Treasure Island.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Love to hear your voices heard about this issue today. Anyone else? And then MD.
Yeah, hi. This is my first time on this Zoom meeting. Can you tell me, is this project fait accompli? It is going to happen, or are we still in this debating stage? I'd like to just kind of caught up with that. I don't even know that information.
Raise hand. Okay.
So I believe we'll answer those like exact questions from Rachel and Eric once everyone puts it out there. So we'll answer that in a second towards the end of the presentation.
No toll, no toll.
And Lauren, you can unmute.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I live on Treasure Island. I've been a resident here for about 5.5 years now. My main question is, how is this not a toll on residents and businesses? I understand there were options given for license plate exemption or for fast tracks, but everything we need, we don't get on this island. And even for services and people to come to this island, that's a toll on residents. Supplying the market, additional costs there, that's a tax on residents. Getting an Uber or Lyft, especially with not always reliable bus service, that's a tax on residents. They're not picking up the bill, they're gonna pass it on to residents. They're gonna pass it on to businesses, people trying to get here. Same thing goes for food delivery, same thing goes for supplying our other businesses, and same thing goes for people's support. You know, people on this island rely on others in their community that don't live on this island. If you need a babysitter, a parent, relatives to come out, whether you need them to help with your care situation, or you just want someone to visit you, it's a tax on residents to say they need to pay $7 to $10 for a family member to come visit them. You know, whether that's something you want, you're a homebound resident that needs care, or you're somebody that's relying on that for childcare services. All of these go back to being a toll on residents and a toll on businesses, even exempting certain license plates.
Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. Appreciate that. Did anyone else want to make a comment?
Yeah, I do.
Sorry.
And whoever said they wanted to make a comment, you can go ahead and do so.
I do. This is Paris. There's a couple of things that bother me about this whole toll thing. First of all, a gentleman asked earlier if they're going forward with this. I'd like to add that I got an email this morning from Treasure Island management this morning stating in 2 years the toll will be going forward. So obviously this is going forward. You know, it seems like this decision was made during the pandemic when we had problems of trying to get on calls with you and other Zoom meetings and couldn't get in to voice our opinions. And all of a sudden this is going forward with the toll. That's a concern of mine because it seems like the residents did not get the opportunity to voice their opinion before this decision was made. Secondly,
You know that, comrade. get all that.
Secondly, the language was congestion fee. That was pre-pandemic. Now, post-pandemic, things have changed a lot. People are moving out, tech companies are moving out. So now I'm not hearing congestion fee, I'm hearing alternative transportation. Rachel, I asked you over a year ago to provide information in regards to the AC Transit. You mentioned to me that there were residents living on this island who work in Oakland. Again, post-pandemic, I'm sure a lot of people have moved away. And then also, you got to give the numbers to support an AC Transit bus. You can't implement a system like that for maybe a handful of residents and put that burden on the other residents' backs. I think that this whole toll thing needs to be revisited. And, thank you for the Board of Supervisors for saying, okay, residents are exempt. That's fine. But, we are an entire community here. It affects our businesses as well. If we can't have our businesses here exempt, then what's the point? Because you're still forcing the residents to leave the island. So to me, again, I think that all this needs to go back to the drawing board and look at post-pandemic results. And, because congestion is not going to be the same anymore. You've moved out your build dates, and yet you're still trying to put this toll not on the residents' back at this point, but also, that being said, what's the end date to that? I mean, this is not an infinity. So what's the end date to that? So these are questions that are still unanswered to me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Parrish. Really appreciate it. And Mark, you can go now.
Hey there, Mark Dema. I've been living on the island since 2000, so I've seen many eras on the island. I've seen many events happen on the island. Probably the most congested was the Oracle World events. I don't know if anyone remembers those. That was a nightmare. So we do understand that there is a limit to how many people can get on and off the island at one time. But hey, somehow Larry Ellison managed to do it with tens of thousands of people in one night. I'll disagree with the last speaker respectfully. We have told the stories repeatedly that we do not want a toll on the island, and we've given good reasons why. We just simply haven't been listened to, and that's a shame. And I remember years ago when they started talking about this, speaking to some of the folks that came out to talk about it, I said, "Tell me how you got out here today." And they said, "Well, we all drove." And I said to them, "I want you to take the bus next time. I just want you to take the bus and see how it is." And a couple meetings later, I saw them again, and well, if y'all taken the bus out yet? And one of them admitted, we tried to take the bus, and it took so long that we ended up having to get an Uber and come over that way, or we wouldn't have made the meeting today. So I feel like these decisions are being made by people that are out of touch with what it's like to live on Treasure Island. They've gotten plenty of feedback about why, even with the Band-Aid of giving current residents a pass, not future residents, but current residents for a period of 2 years, a pass out of this. We feel like that's not good enough, and we're not being listened to. There's no other section of the city that to live in or to have a business in, people have to pay a toll, especially a toll of this magnitude, just to get into their neighborhood. On top of that, we live in the most isolated portion of the city. I just did my grocery shopping today. In the middle of the pandemic, I go grocery shopping once a week, fill my trunk up with items. The car unfriendly attitude that the current city council and administration has, it doesn't work on Treasure Island. There's not a mindset of, oh, they live in the Mission. You can walk down to a Gus's community market or a Whole Foods within your block. We don't have that here. We're not going to have that here for decades. And the transportation that's been promised literally for 20 years.
Right
We still
on, right on.
we haven't seen yet. Yet the toll is supposed to start in 2 years, and it creates an untenable situation for the people that live on the island. Even if you get this reprieve of not having to pay for it yourself personally. I'm very troubled, and something that doesn't get talked about is the new housing on the island. Up 4-bedroom apartments may only have 1 parking space. I live in a household that has workers that have to drive into the South Bay and to other locations that you have to drive to. I have a job where I have to drive to Mountain View when we're not in a pandemic anymore. There's no public transit option to do that. If you move us into houses where an entire household of 4 adult individuals are forced to have only 1 parking space even available, well, that's utterly untenable, and it's something we haven't talked about. We need to not talk about Band-Aid remediations of whether we want fast pass or license scanners so that we'll shut up for now and won't take political action to keep this from happening. But that's the question: is are you going to start listening to us and stop even thinking about putting a toll to go into a neighborhood in the city that is this isolated? I used to have Sunday dinners at my house every Sunday night. I'd have anywhere between 5 and 10 friends come out here for dinner. We'd meet for my Burning Man camp, and we did this every week. You do this and you've killed me from ever having Sunday dinners again after the pandemic is over, because no one's going to come out and pay that amount of money. I'm sorry, but y'all are crazy to think that this is a good idea. And at what point do we stop saying the same things over and over and not being listened to? And do we really start rallying in a political way to put the people out of office that aren't listening to us?
Why
we're only
people
3,000
that
people out
don't
here.
live on Treasure Island, man, it's whacked. Sorry.
Yeah, it's during the pandemic, I can't imagine what it would have been like living out here with a ridiculous toll that high. We have to have drivers come out here to bring us all of our food, and there's a lot of companies that won't do it. No one will deliver to the island anymore. It'll be even harder to get an Uber or a Lyft. We still won't have any real transportation to speak of. It's going to be a nightmare, and nobody seems to get it. And they're talking about these Band-Aid approaches of here, have a fast pass. That's not good enough. It's not going to cut it. We just need to not have a toll. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Mark. Really appreciate it. And I believe iPhone was waiting to talk. I'm not sure exactly the person's name.
Hi, yeah, thank you for that. Name's Jimmy, longtime resident, and I just want to say, I thought we were living in America. Do I have to remind you all that this is the land of the free? I'm sorry, but this toll is just frankly ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Right on.
What?
And Will, did you want to go now? And iPhone, don't know what your name is, but are you done talking yourself? So yeah, Will, you can go now.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was just a bit of interference. I don't know what happened there. I just want to say, no toll. Okay. Anyone else with me? No toll. No toll. No toll. No toll.
No toll.
No toll.
Throw them out.
Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them
I have a
out.
question.
Throw them out. Throw them out. No.
Well, like throw them out. Am I right, guys?
I'm
Come
pretty
on.
sure that's not going to get us anywhere.
Question,
Hey, folks,
please.
can we listen to William, please?
Yes, thank you. I about this toll thing. Is there an EIR somewhere somebody can download and take a look at? Because I don't think the people who put this together have thought this out. I've got a master's in planning at UC Berkeley, and I don't know what background of some of these people who put this thing together. Questions, for example, going to the island Does your toll mean you can get into the Coast Guard station? Is you gonna charge a toll for getting to the Coast Guard station or what?
I'm not too upset about, but people who live in.
Taking what?
Yeah, I mean,
They're going to make note of these questions that are asked, and then
Let me get
towards
my
the end of it,
whole
they
thing
will
out.
direct it.
First off, there's a Coast Guard station, but you can answer these questions one by one. I'm wondering, because getting into the Coast Guard, the other thing is that on Treasure Island, I don't know if you people are aware of it or not, but there's, hello?
We could probably cost Haney his position.
Somebody talking?
John, if you could mute, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, what I was gonna say is, I don't know if people are aware or not, but
I haven't heard.
on Treasure Island, there is a space set aside for FEMA when an internet, when a major environmental problem comes up, that whole thing, we've got hundreds of people coming in and out of there. I don't think you're gonna charge them $7 to run a FEMA operation out of there. Do you know about FEMA? You know, the Costco Busan, there are hundreds of people down there. You're gonna like charge these people $7 to operate to FEMA? Number one. How about the United States Mail? Can the mail get in there without paying $7? Or are you gonna have it passed for them? How about Amazon? The people who live on the island, how about Amazon? You know, this tool is about the stupidest idea ever. Now, I wanna ask one about the Coast Guard station, because I don't think the city of San Francisco can block off people coming from both, either from the San Francisco side or the East Bay side, get on a Coast Guard station. Because if you're gonna do that, we're gonna have a real problem. One other thing, you know, there's protest situation. I'm from Berkeley, right? You know, what you guys at TIMMA gonna do? People get pissed off enough, but they go through, every time they go through there for other than what your objective purpose for charging a toll, you must have a purpose. But you go in there for some other reason, if I get invited for dinner for somebody over there and get charged $7 to $14 to come in, guess what? We're going to a small claims court, and we're going to, you know, we're going to lose, but you're going to have TIMA's going to have a person on a small claims court, because people on the island, every one of us, they get knocked by this stupid toll, going to drag you people into a small claims court. They're going to be doing a small claims court up to the year 2045. And that's one of the things that we can do. It's one of the ways we can protest. Just think about it, guys. You know, that $7, I'll pay $16 to hit you guys to get my $7 back. No problem. Okay, end of conversation. How about the Coast Guard station? Can we gonna get in that? We're gonna be charged for that.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Thank you, William.
No toll.
No toll.
Throw them out. 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 Throw them out.
Hey guys, let's hear the answers.
Yes, so is everyone that wanted to speak spoken? Let me know, because there's 2 pages of this, so you can just unmute yourself and talk if needed.
I just want to agree with, oh, go ahead.
I just have one more thing to add to what I mentioned earlier. What I meant by being exempt, you know, as far as in, residents and businesses, I'm saying no toll as well. On top of that, I just want to say, November 15th, 2016, there's a Department of Transportation Environmental Justice Strategy. And in that strategy says that the bullet points is the department guideline of environmental justice principles are briefly summarized as follows. To ensure a full and fair participation by all potential affected communities in the transportation decision-making process, which we have not been a part of. Also, to avoid, minimize, or mitigate disproportionately high and adverse human health and environmental effect, including social and economic effects on minority or low-income population, and to prevent the denial of reduction in or significant delay in the receipt of benefits by minority or low-income populations. That affects us, and we have not been a part of the decision-making in this process. Even though we voiced our opinions, we're not being heard, like another gentleman mentioned earlier. So again, this needs to go back to the drawing board and actually forget the toll on this island. Because then, because of the also the pandemic has changed a lot of things, and even prior to the pandemic, we did not want toll, and you're still going forward with it. It is not right. It has been unfair, and it needs to move to another direction.
Yes.
It's told
Thank you very
freaking racist.
This is Atta. I was wondering if I could put a couple of words also.
Yes, you can.
You see, a tax doesn't matter to rich people and people who can't afford it. It's like a fine, a millionaire. It does, however, matter if you're on low income at the bottom.
Okay, sorry. I don't know whether somebody's unmuted, but am I online now?
Yes, you can go, Ada. Thank you.
So I'm again another longtime resident, and as well I'm a Commodore of Treasure Island Yacht Club, and I could see a couple of our colleagues already online on this. I'm also a board of Citizen Advisory Board. Now, a few years ago, when this idea of the tour came up and it was presented to CAP, we requested to get some information about the financial feasibility of this project with regard to number of the people going to be using the bridge and how that's going to impact, how this tour is going to impact reducing the amount of traffic. And we've been told that we're going to get back study back to us. And but of course, through the whole process, we never heard that back again, or the model that they were using. So I'd like to make a request the next time we have a Citizen Advisory Board this coming Tuesday, that put that one on an agenda again to see what type of model was used and what type of model after the COVID-19 or post-COVID is going to impact on that model. So we could get a better understanding about the short-term and long-term feasibility of this kind of solution. Thanks.
Thanks, Ada.
Thank you very much for sharing. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak?
Yeah,
I just want to say,
thanks, Barclay. Look, there's not really a great deal I can say about this toll other than it's frankly racist. I mean, you know, we talk about immigration and becoming more liberal, but the thing is, like, imposing a toll like that and restricting the free movement of people, it just strikes me as racist. You know, who is it going to impact? Immigrants, basically. You know, and I just don't think it's right. So I just wondered what the group's thoughts are on that.
Actually, I was going to add one more word to this one here. Now that that idea came up, and I was looking to if this actually could be creating some type of red zoning for us living on the Treasure Island, or people going to be moving on Treasure Island. And it seems to me it's kind of indirectly creating a red zoning type of situation.
Thank you for that comment. And then I believe I'm going to say your name wrong, but Ankila, you can speak now.
oh, Annalisa, maybe?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. No, I just agree with like Lauren and a few other people that spoke earlier about the change and how it will impact not only the residents but the people coming here. And I just don't agree with it. And I even for the businesses, and for people going to Oakland and the East Bay, how many times they will be charged in one day, it just doesn't seem attainable to people unless you're very wealthy and you're, you know, just or unless you just live on the island, you don't leave at all. So I just don't agree with it in any sense of in any sense of how it's been distributed.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. So if everyone that has spoken that got their questions out for Rachel and Eric to respond to.
I have one final point, and it's no toll.
I do have a question.
I'm sorry, there's some problems with my microphone. It's not usually. I don't know if you can hear me properly, but my message.
And Chad, we were able to hear you. Let me know if you had gotten out what you wanted to say. If not, I will let the other person speak before we jump in.
Briefly?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, Rachel, I just wanted to clearly state real briefly that I did receive the survey, and it's clear to me that the stated means of tracking does not completely address the needs even of having the current residents not pay the tolls, because we have residents with multiple individual adults living here with different vehicles. It seems like going through the housing providers with their registered license plates would be a lot more appropriate, because only having one tag for each household would not work, even for a lot of just, single household that has multiple cars, because someone has to drive the kids in and somebody has to, they have 2 cars, like many, many American families. And then also for like the multiple, individual adults living in one household. So the license plate nor the toll tag serve the purpose as stated, when that no tolls for residents was created. So I would respectfully like to ask you to reconsider those methods so that even that point does what the stated purpose was created. And then I do want to, follow suit with everyone else in saying that if we're going to charge all the providers on this island, the businesses, we're going to lose the few things that keep our community together. If we're expecting, for 8 years, all these businesses to be able to last, when it costs more for them all of a sudden to keep their doors open, to have employees come in, and all the services that come with running a business. And then there's the traffic that's going to dry up for the restaurants, the wineries, etc. So that will kill the businesses and will dismantle our community.
Can I ask a point of clarification? Because he just said something that confused me. Are what y'all proposing is there would be one shared fast track that you'd have to share amongst everybody in a household? Is that what's being proposed?
The survey said one tag or 2 license plates, I believe, if someone could clarify.
Okay.
How did anyone
Hello?
think that made any sense whatsoever when you've got multiple people going to multiple jobs? You can't share one tag. Are they crazy? Did they do any looking into this at all?
The people making these decisions are a bloody disgrace.
I would like to know, what exactly is the toll funding? What is the money from the toll? How is the money tied into the development on the island? How is it tied in? Where is this money going that you're going to collect from our friends, families, the businesses, the visitors, the in-home support providers, Amazon, medical delivery? Where is this money going? Because as of now, we don't have good road signs. The roads are tearing up people's cars' tires from the construction. There are no the lanes could at least be defined coming off the freeway from Oakland and San Francisco. So exactly where is this money going? What is this money going to do? And how is the money from the toll going to benefit the community?
And better yet, why are the developers not paying the money for transportation? Why is that burden being put on the people that live here? And that question's never been answered every time I've asked it in one of these
Make the
meetings.
developers pay.
Why aren't the developers paying for
There
this?
are homeowners
Make the
moving out
developers
to the
pay.
island. So if
Hey, ho, where's that money go?
Hey, ho, where's that money go? Hey,
Hey,
ho, where's
ho.
that money go? No
Where's
toll,
it
no
going? I
toll,
don't know
no
where
toll.
it's going anymore. Money go. Hey, ho. Where?
Thank you, Chad.
As much as I I 100% agree about the no toll. If we can let each person speak one by one, I'm 100% on your side as with this with you all. But if we can continue to just
If
have
you
one
ask
person
me,
speak
it's
at
a
a
bloody
time.
disgrace.
So if everyone has made a comment, we're going to give Rachel and Eric the opportunity to respond and give more detailed information to these questions. So
This is my last comment, which is I heard that President Biden just announced a $2 trillion budget for roads and construction infrastructure, if you will. Is there any way that, you know, you can get a grant from that to sustain or pay for whatever you're trying to achieve here instead of putting that burden on residents and on businesses on this island? I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, here, good question.
gotcha. Definitely agree with that. So I think we want to give Eric and Rachel the opportunity to respond to these
Rachel.
questions and give out any information that they wanted to present today now. I really appreciate everyone's willingness to come to this meeting and speaking up about what you want to happen in your community.
Oh, and let's ask Rachel, can we get into the Coast Guard station?
Thank you, Barkley. So for the folks who I haven't met before, my name's Rachel Hyatt. I'm with the San Francisco County Transportation Authority. We are also the Treasure Island Transportation Management Agency. So our board is the Board of Supervisors in their role as County Transportation Authority Commissioners and also Treasure Island Mobility Management Agency Commissioners, all 11 of them. And I'm here with my colleague, Eric Young, who is our Director of Communications. I want to try to get to every question I heard and trying to think about the best order to go in. Maybe I'll just start with, there were some questions about what's decided and what's not, and about some things like how this relates to developer commitments and what the money is going towards. So maybe I'll start with those questions, and I can share this. Let me just share this timeline that's also on our website, because it may be helpful. So the toll is related to the redevelopment of the island, and the idea first became part of the planning for the redevelopment in 2006 with the first transportation plan that was developed then under TIDA's direction. So this was before the Board of Supervisors in its new role was involved. The state did pass legislation to authorize the toll in 2008. And then when the city approved the development agreement in 2011, that included a whole transportation plan that would be then mandated to support the development. And that included the toll, and it also mandated the new transportation services, the transit services, and other things that would need to go along with it. It also specified the developer's contributions. And this development agreement is still the thing that is basically the legally binding document, the legal requirements of obligations and commitments and rules around the development, and that's still the thing that's in place today. One of the things that it did is call for the Board of Supervisors, or SFCTA, to oversee the toll program, and so they are the decision makers, the 11 Board of Supervisors members, over how this transportation plan about what the money goes towards. That was specified in the development agreement. And what the development agreement requires, the development agreement requires that there be new transit when the first new homes are open for occupancy on the island. So it requires a new ferry to San Francisco, a new bus service to Oakland, and an on-island shuttle that would circulate around Yerba Buena and Treasure Island. It also requires increased Muni service to San Francisco. And because the new homes are expected to come in gradually over a period of 15 or 20 years, the amount of this new service is expected to phase in. So start with less service, meaning the service level that matches to the number of travelers, but then increase over this 15 to 20 year period to levels of frequency that are called for in the development agreement. And the funding for all of this comes from a variety of sources. The developer is mainly responsible for the hard infrastructure, the concrete stuff. So they are responsible for the streets and the sidewalks and the lights and the parking spaces, garages. They are responsible for providing the new buses and the shuttle vehicles. What they are not responsible for providing is the ferry vessel. That was something that in the development agreement, they are not, the agency is responsible for that. And then the ongoing operating costs. The developer is responsible for up to $30 million in operating costs over the period where they're building houses. But after that 30 million, they are no longer responsible for any operating. And the development agreement says that the operating costs will come from a few different places. For Muni, the operating costs will come from the general fund from the city. So the increased Muni will be funded the way that all of Muni is funded throughout the city. It says that for the ferry and the shuttle and the East Bay Transit, that will be funded through a combination of the toll, parking fees, transit fare revenues, and transit pass purchases. And the program needs to raise enough revenue from those sources to cover the cost of that transit. So this is not something that I created. It's what the development agreement calls for the SFCTA board to do. Now, with that said, there's a bunch of decisions that were not made in the development agreement. So the development agreement didn't specify when the toll would be in place, how much it would be, and what kinds of exemptions or discounts there could be. So the board did adopt in 2019 a policy calling for a toll exemption for existing residents. And then other issues like how much is the toll and are there other discounts or exemptions and when is it in place? Those things are also still not decided. And actually the board has approved this exemption for current residents, and they've also asked us to identify affordability supports for the current businesses. And then lastly, they've asked us to look at future low-income travelers and building in exemptions and or discounts for future low-income travelers. Someone asked about the schedule and the plans for this transit service that is called. Looking ahead to the next few years and then further into the development timeframe, we expect the new homes to be available for occupancy by summer 2023, and that's when we expect the new services and the toll to start. In the development agreement, they're tied together. They need to happen at the same time. So that's when the ferry service would begin, the on-island shuttle service, the East Bay bus service, and the toll. The final service levels on the starting year are still not decided yet, but some of the assumptions that we're making are that the ferry service would begin at peak period levels, so it would be a peak period ferry service. For the East Bay bus service, we are looking at, we've heard concerns about an hour service being not useful, not enough service to be worth doing. And we agree with that feedback. So we are looking at an alternative, which would be an on-demand bus service that would be able to have a 15-minute response time to downtown Oakland. And we could do that for the same or actually less cost, it looks like, than the AC service. And an on-island shuttle service that would also start and go throughout the island, and it would have a similar 15-minute response time. Those services will then start increasing probably at the quarter build-out, 2,000 units. We think that the developer thinks that the 2,000 unit mark, or the 1/4 of the way through, will be reached in 2027, and about half the way through in 2031, and then everything, all the new units built by 2036. So that's the time frame and the connection to developer. And so let me address some other questions. So concern about the toll, the resident toll exemption, and that there are the households that have multiple drivers, more than 2 drivers, needing an exemption. So I've heard that concern from a number of folks. And so it sounds like we need to change our proposal to address that situation where there's households that have more than 2 drivers. So I think we can identify a way to do that. So I'll have to come back to you with what that solution would be for households that have more than 2 drivers. Pandemic effects and how the pandemic affects the financial feasibility of this program and the kind of service that we'll be able to provide. That's a very good point, great question and good point, because it will affect. And we are working on trying to estimate how that effect will
No more.
Please be quiet.
Can you mute, please?
Yeah, because we did give everyone the opportunity in the beginning to speak.
No more tolls!
If at all possible, if we can stay muted, that way we can give Rachel, the opportunity to respond to the questions that you guys asked.
Brewskis, soccer moms, no more.
Barkley, are you able to mute everybody?
I'm unable to do it. Rachel or Eric would have to do it. So if we feel
we'd
that
like
that
to,
is
we'd
necessary.
like to get this information, folks. So please.
With all the money we save on tolls, we could buy so many brewskis and zoots and chill with the boys. It'd be fantastic. We could just chill on the beach, man. I'd love it so much.
Wow.
And Rachel and Eric, do you have the ability to mute all while you are discussing what you want to?
Eric, do you
I
have
think
that
you've
ability?
said your piece down, Mark, so can we please, Rachel?
Eric, do
Yeah,
you
over
have
to you,
that?
Rachel.
Eric, have the ability? Let me see if I do.
Thank you for the patience,
One last
everyone.
time, guys. No more tolls.
No more
tolls.
No more tolls.
Ah, shit. No more tolls. Talk 'em
I
up.
don't want any more tolls.
No more
No,
tolls.
no
No
more
more tolls.
tolls.
Come on, John. No
No
more
more
tolls. I
tolls.
see you there, Steve. No more
All
tolls.
together, no more tolls.
No more
William
tolls.
Burns,
No more tolls.
No
No
more.
more tolls.
Come on,
Treasure
Mark,
Island's a
Mark
shithole.
them
No.
tolls.
Please, thank you. Let's be respectful. Thank you.
Okay, so I was trying to answer someone's question or a couple of folks' questions about how the pandemic affects, because we do think that there will be effects, and we are doing some forecasting these days and now to try to understand how travel patterns are expected to change, how the development project would be impacted, and how much travel we think there's going to be, how much transit service we'll need to provide. So we do think that there will be impacts, and I don't have those results today to be able to describe exactly how yet we think they'll be different, but we're working on that. Let's see. Federal vehicles, so other types of vehicles that would be subject to the toll. So yeah, under what's been proposed so far, deliveries would be subject to it. And I hear the concern that basically it is a way that residents would not receive your exemption because the deliveries would pass on to you that cost. So I hear that feedback, and we'll need to think about how that could be addressed. The question of no toll at all is not something that I could decide. It's something that was included in the development agreement. So it would be the change to the development agreement. That's something that our city elected officials are responsible for, and not something that I myself could do.
Rachel, is there an EIR? Aren't you required for a project of this size to be environmental impact report? And where can we get a download that? Because it looks like this is a lot of incomplete stuff. Have some other professionals look it over, because you say, oh, we haven't thought of this, we haven't thought of that. Is there any EIR available?
Yes, there is. There is an EIR available on the TIDA's website, and I can put that in the chat.
Yes, please. Because if it's an EIR, if there's a problem, an EIR can be challenged, and that can can slow the project down.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Eric also put it more specifically in the chat. Yes, it is in the EIR.
Okay.
Someone asked about Biden's funding, new transportation funding coming out, and whether there's a possibility to get some of that for Treasure Island. Yes, there absolutely is a good possibility for that, and we have actually submitted a request for funding for Treasure Island from that program. We are also looking at a number of other funding sources to reduce the need for revenue generated from island travelers. That includes the existing Bay Bridge toll, which is the main funding source for ferries. And so we are requesting and lobbying for that toll revenue to be used for the Treasure Island ferry. Again, our board isn't in control of how that money is spent, but we're working on making that case. And other sources from city-generated sources like city bond funding and future revenue sources that the city would put in place, having Treasure Island funding included there. And Muni, the problems with Muni performance and how it doesn't provide a good enough choice. I do take a Muni when I go to the island, and so I've experienced that. Muni is required to increase their service with the development agreement. It's on the time frame starting in 2023, and we are working with them in other ways to try to make those improvements sooner. We have funded increased service for Muni and overnight service, nighttime services, so we continue to provide funding for them to keep those service levels higher than they otherwise would have been, even though I recognize that they are still deficient. And I guess maybe since hopefully I've responded to most things, and I'm sure I probably forgot some things. So I can give our contact information. I'll put it in chat. That's me. And here's Eric.
And then
we are happy more conversations to follow up where I wasn't able to answer
Rachel,
questions.
will the toll affect getting into the U.S. Coast Guard station?
I'm sorry, yes. So it would affect any vehicles going on or off the bridge.
You mean, I wonder, can the city of San Francisco or some developer stop? That's a federal situation. It's a military situation that you can put up some kind of a barrier in front of a Coast Guard station would seem to be something that we can go to our congressman about. I mean, that doesn't seem to be right. That's stupid. What base in the United States, or for that matter, any country in the world, where some morons to put up a thing that's going to cost you $10 to get into your base? Is that what you're saying?
It could be that Coast Guard vehicles are exempt based on federal law. So that's a good question.
Wait, Rachel. A lot of things are coming in there from auxiliary or other sources. They've got business there that do not have federal license plates on it. Okay, something. I bet you the people who put this together probably didn't even know there's a Coast Guard station on the island.
Thank you for sharing, Will. I just want to make one comment, Rachel, just so everyone is aware. The housing link, the link that was sent out to the housing providers did not work to join the meeting. So other people have spoken about having another meeting for that reason. And I was hoping that we could make that commitment to have another meeting because the link that went out to the housing partners did not work.
Yes, we commit to that.
Thank you, Rachel.
I just like to add, it just doesn't make sense to me on how you want to start a toll at 2023 when you won't even start the build out until 2027. Right. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Again, this is burden. And then you're talking about residents are exempt. So therefore you're putting it on the businesses and then their vendors and who potentially may be visiting the island. All of this is a negative impact on the island as a whole. It really is. And you're saying the developers, well, the developers might be putting up the money to build and so forth. They should not have any say so on how it's going to affect the residents and say, well, let bygones be bygones. No, it should not work like that. They need to go back to the developer and says, no, this is not going to work. And because they should not have the last say so in this matter. Again, going back to that Department of Transportation Environmental Justice Act in 2016, the community was supposed to be a part of this development agreement because it impacts us, and we were not. And you said it yourself, Rachel, that this was implemented in 2016, even before the residents and everyone got involved in this, and that's not right.
Not right.
I had one quick comment to make about Muni. And first of all, Rachel and Eric, thank you very much for coming, well, virtually coming today. We do appreciate that. One is, this has been brought up since we've been talking about this a long time. With the Muni, it's not just a matter of the bus schedules and whatnot. There is, we've kind of forgotten about it because it's not in operation right now, but the Job Corps students are a continued issue aboard the Muni buses. I've had roommates actually move off of the island because they were like smaller people and they were being bullied on the bus. And I'm sure everybody that takes the bus on the island has stories about the difficulties because of lack of security and issues around bullying with the Job Corps folks that are on the bus that makes Muni almost literally unworkable for them. We have a problem out here on the island. It's never been addressed around that, which makes public transit of any sort unusable for the people that live out here. And any program needs to address the security issues around public transportation on Treasure Island, as long as there's a Job Corps out here. Between the lack of any understanding or of that in the plan, the lack of understanding that there are many households that have up to 4 drivers that need to have their own separate way to get on and off the island. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had a firm dedication that the agency that is making these minutia decisions, including it sounds like that what it's going to cost, the toll is going to cost, have some sort of advisory input from either the island resident advisory committees that already exist, or by creating one, because it looks like no real effort was made to find out from people that lived on the island what they needed, what the problems were, and how fulfilling the things that were called for, as far as like existing residents not being able to pay a toll. The options you gave us are untenable and unworkable. So it would save a lot of time if you had residents from the island that were in their understanding of these things, giving you input while they were being created. This is the first time I've heard of a $7 toll, and it just gobsmacked, because there's this huge difference between a $1 or $2 toll that's just sort of meant to keep the island from being overrun by people on 4th of July, and a crippling $7 toll. And so I'd like to hear that addressed. If you're going to make a real effort to get some strong input from residents of the island, understand the impact of the needs, and start making proposals to us that make sense. This should never have gone out in a survey in this form before checking with folks on the island to see if it was even workable. And it's kind of surprising that that effort was not made.
Thank you, Mark. That kind of what you just talked about is things that should be covered in the EIR. Because if it's not covered in the EIR, it's defective. Thank you, Mark. You made some good points.
Hi, this is Deb. I had a quick question to reiterate what Lauren and Mark had mentioned earlier. Did you all factor in that people to come visit us on the island have to pay? Like, my brother's low income, he asked for our help to babysit. And so now with the toll implemented, that means he would have to pay for that as well. And if we want to get together with friends, they're going to have to pay to come see us. Can you address that?
Address that. Rachel?
I'm hearing that concern from everyone. So we'll need to give some thought as to how we can address that.
Has any of the restaurants weighed in on the added cost of a party of 6 or 4 coming from the East Bay to Mercy? Have you kind of put them out of business with this added tax? It's an extra $15 per person.
That's right.
We have heard from businesses, yes. And so at the same time that we proposed the approach to giving residents their exemption, we proposed a couple options for financial support for existing businesses. So for the food services and the nonprofits on the island, and some options. We're also seeking input from businesses on those ideas or others, which could include just direct cash support that could be used flexibly to offset their variety of transportation expenses, or direct stipends such as on a toll tag to cover commute costs of workers.
Thank you.
But what if there's a reduced visitation or business sales that happen because people don't want to visit these restaurants? So maybe that could be something on the drawing board. Because let's say Merce would have 500 customers, but after the toll is implemented, it's reduced because people are coming from the East Bay now don't want to pay a double toll, or from the San Francisco they don't want to either, and they'd rather stay in the city than pay. That might be something to think about, or the businesses might have to suffer if this is implemented.
Yeah, this is discrimination against the people from the East Bay. You have to pay a double toll to get on the island. And again, Rachel, let me ask you. I asked you about the Coast Guard. You think they're going to have to pay too? If that's for sure, I'd like to start proposing a letter to Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi, because this is something I don't think a city or developer can charge for going into a military base. I don't think that's happened anywhere on this planet. And San Francisco maybe think they can. They're not going to be able to get away with that. And if it's for certain we can't get in, then we should start bringing in some heavy hitters on the other side.
And Rachel, you mentioned that a burden would be put on Amazon. So any Amazon delivery, there would be an added fee. Is that correct?
Pass down to the
Delivery vehicles do not have an exemption.
So there'd be
I mean,
an added fee.
So you have to pay. So any delivery coming from the East Bay you'd be paying twice, or any, which is everything's now delivered. There's a tax.
Pass down to the user.
Okay.
Deliveries would be subject. And I do hear the concern that's been raised today that would translate to current residents those extra costs. So I hear that concern.
And Rachel, somebody mentioned before where the funds were going. Is this a congestion issue or is this a revenue issue? Because if it's a revenue issue, there's a lot of bright people here where to get that money. And it's very easy to go out to the developers and people who are going to be paying a lot of money for this view that they're going to store their furniture in. And is it a private company that's going to handle the tolls? Like a lot of the other companies that do the tolls?
So what the development agreement and the transportation plan from that describe is that the congestion toll has two functions. It's to manage congestion and vehicle demand on and off the island, and additional vehicle traffic on the bridge during congested periods. And it's also to provide a committed operating revenue source for the ferry, the shuttle, and the East Bay bus. And you're right, there are other, at least capital funding sources, and hopefully ongoing operating in the form of the existing Bay Bridge toll. Those aren't dedicated to Treasure Island.
Individuals that are going to be living
we're working
there.
on.
You know, if you had to rank all the revenue sources to bring in to fund something like this, the high net worth individuals who will be living here, to start there first, as opposed to starting here on the bottom and trying to do these kind of nickel and dimes to the people who live here.
Right.
And the developer never wants to pay. If you tell the developer to pay, it's not like he's going to pack up and leave. They're going to pay. So what is the amount of money that you need to operate for 10, 15 years and lay it onto the top 1% who are going to buy these apartments, these Russian oligarchs who are going to have the top apartment to look back out over the bay and a place to put their furniture. That's where the money's at. Not the Amazon delivery guy coming down the street, getting him for $7. Don't get him. Get the guy who's got the top 5 floors of the buildings over here that are coming up.
I'm less concerned about the FedEx trucks and the Amazon trucks. They'll absorb that possibly easily. It's the Uber Eats, the Uber drivers, the folks that are not making any money at all, and then we'll see it impossible to get any food delivery to the island ever again.
Ever again.
That's
And a lot of
been a
this
conversation.
development and all of this proposal, and I put it in the chat, all of this was before COVID. So this community is already struggling. And I hear you and I understand, Rachel, you're not the person, but the purpose of this meeting was to actually give community a solution and actually hear it. And that's not being shared here of how do we alter the change that needs to happen? Because ultimately residents have said that they do not want to toll. Businesses, it will affect our employment. It will affect the growth in businesses, as many of our businesses employ our residents. And then just the general, our supports. COVID has put a lot more that we require supports, babysitting, childcare, all of that. All of that will be absorbed. So you're cutting off our support systems. You're further, and we're already isolated. So really the whole point of this meeting was to come with solutions. And I'm just hearing like, oh, well, it's such and such. Oh, it's the supervisors. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Well, who is holding the developer accountable? Because we do not meet with the developer. The developer doesn't meet with community to be able to hold this. And I agree with everybody that's here that the conversation should be put on the developer. It should not be where the residents, and definitely should not be implementing this in 2023, knowing that we have a long road of recovery for this community. We've already been identified as the highest poverty level in the entire city. We are 57% in poverty in this neighborhood alone. And you're talking about implementing a toll on our businesses that employ us and our support systems. We have a 50% increase in delivery because our residents can't go to the store. They can't do all of this. The grocery store won't even be developed in the time that you're trying to implement the grocery store. So what is really the solution to this conversation? Because I can personally say I'm very upset that people didn't even have access to this meeting. And that was the biggest complaint, is that we put the trust that, you know, transparency would happen in this meeting, that residents would actually have a say. And I'm out here, and out of the 150 people that I passed out today, not one of them have been able to get access onto this meeting. So what is really going to be the solution? Because to have us meet and you have all these people here saying the same thing and we're not being heard, this is not acceptable.
Not acceptable, right? Thank you, Hope. Yeah, all you're doing is here. Well, you know, again, like Hope said, well, it's this, it's that. You know, a lot of people are asking questions and we're not getting any answers. All we're getting is it's some developer this and developer that, and it's the other guy, the other guy, the other guy. Hey, you know, some people are getting a little bit upset at that. Has anybody got any answers to these questions? I said, can a Coast Guard get answered? Well, we don't know, but they have to pay. In other words, there's no answers here.
It seems that what Rachel, what she said, if I'm not mistaken, that this, in order to really change this amendment or make the amendment to this contract, it has to go through the legal chain of supervisors. So in this case here, from hearing that Rachel is just implementing or just following the orders, or I guess to what needs to be done, more pressure needs to be done on the supervisors to basically changing their minds and seeing our point of view here, and rather than only Rachel, because I see.
But supervisors weren't invited to this meeting, and we've already put it before the supervisors. So half of our community is not here to represent our voice. Where is this recording going? Because this meeting is being recorded. We only have one new member from the title board. We do have CAB member representation here. So we do have leadership that's represented here, but where is this information going? Because you have all the people say here in this place, but none of the people who are actually the decision makers are in this space. So where's the information of this meeting going? In that you have the community well represented, not well represented, but you at least have many of the leaders here that are expressing the concerns that are echoed throughout this community. Where is this going?
Can I also ask?
Where's Eric? We haven't heard anything from Eric.
Oh, to follow up on that last point, Hope. So we hold these community meetings to hear from folks and to provide answers that we have. I've been taking notes, just like every community meeting that we run. We share what we hear from these meetings with supervisors, relevant supervisors, so they will hear about what we're hearing today. And also, I think you asked about where will people be able to access the recording for this meeting. We'll post it to our website, the Treasure Island website.
That wasn't my question. My questionnaire was, where is the information going? The decision makers, as far as the supervisors, are not. So the point of this meeting was to make it accessible to the residents that are on Treasure Island to be able to express their concerns to the decision-making parties, not you guys, but the actual people who make the decision, not relay our information third party.
Right.
Because if you relayed our information third party, we wouldn't continue to have this conversation. We designed and purposed this day so that residents would be able to access it and be able to be in the same space as the people who are making the decision. And the people who are making the decision are not part of this meeting, as well as our community was given the wrong information to attend the meeting. We want to be heard directly to them, not you relaying the information of what we share.
And to piggyback on that, we have had these conversations multiple times and expressing these same various concerns that you are hearing today. And we're still on the same page. I would think that we would have moved beyond this by now, and we are not. We're still arguing these same points.
I was there at the meetings in 2006 or before 2006, and it was very clearly stated at that time we weren't listened to then. So we keep having these meetings, and we're not seeing any action.
Progress.
We invited Jane Kim to come out here. She never set foot on the island to any of our meetings. I believe that Matt Haney is a little bit more responsive, but he should have been here today.
He's not here, out of town. This meeting was scheduled against his schedule, but he will be here on April 24th. And this is one of the topics for us to discuss with him. But he is a strong advocate that he is not on board with pushing this toll. So he hears us. But if you're saying it's the whole entire body, then the next meeting that involves community on a Saturday where community can be here should be with the supervisors, not with just these people.
Right. Well, it sounds like the folks here today are in charge of setting how much the toll will be. And I've heard it, they said it's not going to be 7, but they haven't said what their proposal is. These folks were put in charge of figuring out how to make sure that current residents weren't being charged the toll, and they sent out a survey that has 2 unworkable options on it. So I would challenge that for at least the stuff that y'all are in control of. I've not heard any good response to how you're going to fix this so it's actually at least workable to what the parameters that you were given. You're told make it free for the people on the island. What you set out to us was not that, and no information around how we're going to get food deliveries and other things out here, or what your proposal is for how much the toll should be. So I would have expected at least that amount of information, considering that apparently that's your group is able to do. And I asked the question, how are you going to get community feedback before you make these decisions and send it out to the community? And I've not heard any sort of assurances. Yes, we're going to go to the either create an advisory council of current island residents or use the ones that already exist to get this information, so we're not making proposals that were obviously made with no input from the community. So I'd like to hear a response to that.
We do go before the TIDA CAB as the community advisory body, and we're agenda for their Tuesday meeting.
So wait, you're saying the two proposals of only either 1 or 2 cars per household being able to get toll exempt was brought before them, and nobody said, guys, there are people with at least 4 cars.
It
that are
hasn't been
traveling.
brought before us yet. It's supposed to be before us in the Tuesday meeting. And I'm going to say that there's a few of us that are on the cab on this call, and this is not acceptable. We are bringing the voices of community. That's why we organized this meeting, is because we wanted community feedback to authentically be heard in this space, so that when you present this, we will definitely be bringing feedback again to say, no, these options are not acceptable. You need to go back to the drawing board. It's not A or B. We're saying that neither works.
Okay, I'm shocked that this wasn't brought up before the survey went out. And it could have saved a lot of.
So I was, when we did our round of board presentations last November and December, I went before TITA CAB at their December 2020 meeting.
And I spoke against that. I was on that meeting, and I was very clear about the same community expression before the survey gave out. And the board held you accountable to gain our feedback first before that went out. The survey went out before our feedback was given. I was on that meeting call.
So then again, I guess the question is not whether you tell them, is whether you actually will start listening to what these advisory councils are telling you. Because if this is happening, that means that we need to, as a community, apply pressure to the elected officials so that they're replacing you with folks on these committees who are doing their jobs correctly. I'm sorry, but if you're not telling us, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to listen, we're going to make adjustments. I've not heard that today. All I'm hearing is that you've heard these and you made this proposal anyways and sent it out to us. That means we need to really start acting at a political level and have folks that are on positions that like you have replaced by people that listen. And do you want us to do that, or are you going to start actually listening to us? Because this is our lives we're talking about. We're not playing around. You're messing with our lives and our livelihood, our ability to keep our people fed, and to actually be able to live on Treasure Island. It is not cheap. There's some of us who have been here a long time and we're rent controlled, and we kind of can't go anywhere else. And if people like you who are bureaucrats who, your job is dependent on listening to us and you're not doing it, we'll start making sure that you don't have that job anymore.
Mark, and Eric, I have to say this, and it's because this is really my concern. We having, and Hope said it as well, we came to this space hoping for answers. We don't have answers. And yet here it is, the Treasure Island office, John Stewart sent out this email, and I got one this morning, stating that the toll would be implemented in 2023, in 2 years from now. That's telling me you guys are going full steam ahead with this, regardless of what you're hearing today. And again, as I expressed earlier, this is not the first time, Rachel and Eric, you guys have heard these concerns. We've been expressing these concerns for years now, and yet I'm getting this email saying you're going straight ahead, 2023, it's happening. So regardless of us even expressing ourselves today, what can you give us to tell us we're going to go back with something solid and come back to you with something solid? Because to me, it sounds like it's going in one ear and out the other. You guys don't give a damn because it's still happening.
So the reason that we wanted to do this outreach is to hear feedback and revise the proposals based on what we hear. And that's what our board is expecting from us.
Well, then I don't understand why we're in the same place where we've been in for years, because we've had these same questions presented to you.
You haven't done it this far. Why should we trust you to do it any longer? You guys aren't listening. I don't suspect you've given us any reason to believe you're going to do so going forward.
Rachel, do you mind putting in the chat who you respond to or speak to? So that way I know what people you're answering to. I have some ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
In the chat.
And I just want to make a comment that, again, my name is Barkley Sanders. I'm part of the Citizens Advisory Board of Treasure Island, similar to Hope. And so I just want to make that clear that I am here to voice your concerns, as I also live on Treasure Island myself. Also my email is barclaysanders@gmail.com. Feel free to email me directly or email the email that Lauren put into the chat so that we can work together and make sure that we do get these questions answered.
I put in the chat the executive director of our agency, Tilly Chang. That's who Eric and I both report to as our executive director.
Is there another agency that you speak to though in regards to like the developers and everyone that's kind of have already made the decisions and you're kind of responding as time follows, or is that person that you added in the chat the person I should?
Yeah, that the agency overseeing the redevelopment and who oversaw the development agreement is Treasure Island Development Authority, and that is led by Bob Beck, the executive director of TIDA. I can add that too.
Thank you.
But who is the actual contact for the developer? Because we have not been able to get the actual contact of the developer. Because a lot of what you were saying is the developer will this, developer will that. Who is actually the contact for that person?
So to contact, I don't think I'm at liberty to give out the developer contact information. I think you would need to get it from Bob Beck at TIDA. I put his email in the chat.
Would it at least be possible for you to speak with the developer directly instead of us trying again to go through Bob Beck to see if they would be willing to give out their contact information so it doesn't jump 3 or 4 different steps before that question gets asked?
Sure, I could do that.
Why can't we have the developer involved in some of these calls?
Well, we do have one of our newest TIDA board members on here, and she just put in the chat that she's on it. So we can also express that to the TIDA board members that we were unable to get the information from the developer for the developers in this community meeting.
Rachel, I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to, I'm going to say, vent with you. And I hope we didn't beat you up too badly today, but you know, we're very concerned, and we're I don't want to use the word afraid, but we're very, very concerned about how this is going to impact our lives.
Paris, it's good to talk to you again. Yes, I understand.
Good, thank you, Rachel.
And Rachel, quick question on the toll. Is there information on the company that's going to run it and the actual amount of fees that go to the management of the toll and how much they're projecting to go to what they're hoping to, receive in revenue?
Right, yeah, so a company to manage it hasn't been hired yet. That is something that would happen, could happen in the next year. If the hiring of that company is, or the contracting with that company is an action that would go before our board with the terms of that contract. So that's something of interest. If you get the agendas for the TIDA, the TIMA board, that's something that would go before them when that hiring decision is made.
So being able to put on a certain amount of actual revenue that has to come from that, a company that's going to go in there and actually run this is going to find out it's not worth their time and effort. Much like the red light camera companies, those aren't money makers for the city because it's all in maintenance fees. So we think we're gonna be raising all this money from the tolls from what, 1,000, 2,000 cars that come at $350 each, but they're taking $320 in maintenance fees for the private company, most likely private company that's running the tolls. So where's this, revenue to run all these new forms of transportation coming from? It's not coming from the tolls.
That's right.
So to wrap up on that, we will be able to get the information from the company and the bid and the plateaus and the requirements to actually come in and run this toll, correct?
The award of a contract, so anytime our agency awards a contract, it gets approved by our board, that contract, and the actual contract is a public record. So all of the terms of the contract are publicly available.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel.
And I believe someone else just raised their hand to speak also. You're welcome to speak, whoever raised their hand. I can't remember the name of the person that popped up a minute ago when someone else was speaking, but go ahead. Guess we'll move along there. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover, Rachel or Eric, here today?
Not necessarily. I think, Barclay, I really appreciate you hosting this today and doing publicity for it. We're very grateful for you doing that and making this opportunity. So, if there is a desire to have another one because of the communication problem, we're happy to do that if you like.
Well, Rachel, so if somebody wanted to write and complain, let's say the residents, what does it go? Does it go to TIDA or to the Board of Supervisors or to the mayor? I mean, what is the source if we're going to write and complain rather than, where does the sun shine on this?
Well, the decision makers, the elected officials who make the decisions are the Board of Supervisors.
Board of Supervisors. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it the entire board or is it only the transportation community? Who actually should we be reaching out to?
So there is a committee of the board that takes the items first. And that committee has 3 members. It's Commissioner Matt Haney, it is Commissioner Raphael Mandelman, and Commissioner Hillary Ronan. And then after that committee hears the items, then it goes to the full 11 members.
That committee is called what now?
It's Matt Haney, Raphael Mandelman, who's District 8, and Hillary Ronan, who's District 9.
And they're all our allies too. So we'll work as community. If you email that email address that we put out there for community either Steve put out or the one that Barclay put out, we will contact you to make sure that you get the contact information for those supervisors so that we can move forward as community to make sure that our voices are being heard.
Thank you, Hope.
Yeah, I think we've learned the lesson that we have not as community organized and applied enough pressure politically to really have our voices heard. It's unfortunate there's not enough of us out here. I feel like Matt Haney has been more receptive. They're out here giving us vaccines on the island today. I'm gonna put a quick plug in. Please pay attention to that. Anyone can go. They got a couple more dates.
I know I'm still out here, so I have about 50 shots. So if you know somebody, they're gonna stay open until 4 o'clock. But I'm sitting right outside the vaccine shot and tell people to come because I think I still have like 40 shots available.
So thank you. I thank you guys for being out there and doing that, anyone that's out there, but we do need to really start to organize politically, because this is gonna, it's become very, very clear, unless we apply some real political pressure, we're not going to be listened to. So,
Right.
Lauren
folks,
just put the information in the chat, so please look at the chat that Lauren put into the email. That is our tenant association that we're reforming. So please send an email to that, and we will make sure that we get the information to you, and we will make sure that we are heard.
all right, because we need to make sure that either folks are listening to us or they don't have jobs anymore. No offense, but guys, you got to do better. You got to do better than what got sent out on the proposal, because that obviously had no community input at all to it. It was very, very completely tone deaf. And you need to do better, please. It's our lives. It's literally our lives out here. Do better at what your jobs are. And I'm glad you're here today, but please take something from this, because we've been saying this for 15 years. And folks come and they listen politely, and then they go and they put out proposals like they did today. Please do better. It's coming down to the wire now. And, if it's our lives or your jobs, we'll put enough pressure to make sure that y'all don't have your jobs anymore if you don't start doing it right. Thank you.
The Board of Supervisors, we get their
Yeah, I think we can wrap up the meeting if everyone thinks it's valid. Ran over a little bit on time today, but I do really appreciate everyone's feedback. And like Hope was saying, please reach out to our email. Well, we do need all to work together as a community, like everyone's been stated. And me personally, I live here myself, so I'm on your side. I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and I agree that you guys should all get these questions answered, and that this conversation should change. So please work with us so that we can do what you want, because this is your community.
Okay.
But I think we're good to wrap it up, Rachel and Eric. If everyone else feels good here too today, we can end this meeting.
Thank you, Barclay. Really appreciate it.
Barclay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You didn't need to be caught in the crossfire.
No problem. It's part of the job, being on
Thank
the
you, everyone.
advisory board. So I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm glad that you're being very adamant about what you want to happen in your community, and I'm on board with it too. So I really appreciate it, and continue to show up to these meetings, continue to push back on what you want to happen in your community, and then hopefully we can make that happen for you all. But I guess we can all drop off now. Everyone's good to go.
All right, Barclay,
Okay.
thank you.
Bye.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys. Thank you.